Vannesa Beeley's joining us, an independent researcher and photographer, literally just back from a fact-finding mission in Syria. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. There is confusion over the white helmets, who's backing them, what they're about, what their actual motives are. Can you shed any light on them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've mentioned the fact that they are a multi-million funded organization, not a non-governmental organization. They're multi-million funded by various nations, NATO states that have a declared vested interest in Syria, in regime change in Syria. This is very important, a very important point to make. And we've seen this so-called humanitarian organization calling for a no-fly zone on various occasions, various false flags, including the very recent alleged attack on a humanitarian convoy by Russia, which has been completely discredited since. Of course, that story was broken again by the White Helmets. We also see them now being entertained in France by, top government officials like Manuel Valls, Prime Minister. He has been speaking them today, and France's involvement in Syria has been very clear from the beginning, right from 2008, when Sarkozy was furious that Assad refused the Qatari pipeline, and certainly refused France's suggestion that 70% of the revenue from that pipeline should come to France and 30% to Syria. According to some reports. And so, again, we're seeing very clearly France's vested interest. We know that France has invested heavily in the propaganda units inside East Aleppo, like Aleppo Media Center, that is heavily funded by the CFI, the Canal France International, which is French Foreign Office funded. When we hear Manuel Valls speaking to the White Helmet operatives, we hear him saying things like the battle for Aleppo is our battle, it's France's battle. Well, I think somebody should remind Manuel Valls that Syria is no longer a French colony. It hasn't been since 1959, and actually the battle for Syria is for the Syrian people. It's not for France. And so I don't think the White Helmets can declare themselves independent and impartial and humanitarian when they are being wined and dined by a nation that has a very clear and a publicly declared interest in regime change in Syria. And if we go back to Laurent Fabius, who actually in 2012 stated that Al-Qaeda are doing a good job in Syria. So maybe now we're seeing France repatriating some of their assets in East Aleppo.
Interesting point you're making there. And of course, it's not just backing from France that they're enjoying. They're enjoying huge backing from the UK and the States as well. So to cut to the chase, the White Helmets, in your considered opinion, after being on the ground there, are not all they seem. They've also got alleged ties or dubious links to militants as well. Can you confirm that? Have you seen any of that?
Again, it's very difficult to actually witness what the White Helmets are doing, and there's a very simple reason for that. They are embedded exclusively in Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda in Syria, and ISIS-held areas. However, when I went to West Aleppo and I spoke with the real Syria Civil Defense, which has been in existence since 1953, so 63 years. Bear in mind that the White Helmets were only created in 2013, so 2 years into the NATO war against Syria. When I spoke to crew members in West Aleppo that had escaped from East Aleppo when the terrorists invaded in 2012, what they told me was that those terrorists that invaded East Aleppo, they massacred the crew members of the real Syria Civil Defense. They stole all of their ambulances. They stole 3 of the fire engines, and those that they didn't massacre, they kidnapped, or they basically drove out of East Aleppo into West Aleppo. And this particular crew member, who couldn't give me his name for his own security, he's marked for assassination by the terrorists in East Aleppo because he refused to work with them. Basically, he said that these terrorists that came in 2012 then transformed into the White Helmets. As far as he is concerned, and as far as the Aleppo Medical Association representatives are concerned in West Aleppo, the White Helmets in East Aleppo, embedded with the terrorist groups there, do not carry out any humanitarian missions. The real Syria civil defense crew members described them as terrorists. He said they drive around with guns in their car, they carry out terrorist acts, they support the terrorist groups that are there, they're criminals. So this was a direct testimony that was then corroborated by further interviews with the real Syria civil defense units in Tartus, in Latakia, and the headquarters in Damascus. So this was something that I heard first in West Aleppo, but it was then confirmed by other real Syria civil defense units across
The
Syria.
white helmets do seem to be pretty media savvy as well, don't they? I mean, we've covered this story a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
Nobody can deny they aren't carrying out some rescue operations, etc. there, but a lot of it looks very carefully filmed. We even heard some stories that, in fact, while they were trying to get shots, people that almost dying under rubble, etc., while they got the right shot. Does that sound realistic to you? Is that really what's happening?
Again, this is very interesting. There's various articles that are coming out at the moment in independent media that are proving very conclusively that they're recycling photographs of children. We're seeing what look like very similar children from stories, say, back in February, March. And in fact, when Russia first joined the axis of resistance in Syria and came in and started bombing in Syria, if you remember, the white helmets then recycled a photograph from previously in 2015. So this is something that they've been doing throughout their existence as regards their propaganda campaigns. But certainly, when we look at their videos, and we looked at them with the real Syria civil defense, who are fully trained paramedics, they're recognized by the International Civil Defense Organization in Geneva. They're the only civil defense organization inside Syria recognized by the ICDO in Geneva, by the way. The white helmets are not recognized by them, and in fact, they clearly said they are not concretely civil defense workers. But when we spoke to them, sorry, just very quickly, when we spoke to them, they basically cast all sorts of aspersions on the methods they're using to rescue, the equipment they're using, the way they're using the equipment is incorrect. So basically, their testimony again states that they are not the trained paramedics that they claim to be.
Well, Vannesa, it's been very interesting having you on the programme. Thanks for your time. Vannesa Beeley, independent researcher and photographer, as they recently just back from a fact-finding tour there. Thanks for being live on RT International with us.
Thank you.